Good morning. We're at the very top of 26a. So the Mishnah had said, Rabbi Shmuel Omer Ein L'chai Ve'ela Asid Lava. We had a machlokas between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva on the details of what kind of shua are you liable for, at least for a carbon. And the Gemara will discuss that further. Tana Rabbanan, Lahara Le'etiv. So the Torah says, if you make a shvua for better or worse, ainly el dvarim sheish ben hara'ava v'hatava. So this would only include things that you make a shvua on that either would be of benefit to you or detrimental to you. But what about something that's totally neutral? She'ein ben hara v'hatava minayin. How do you know, is that included in a shvua that you're liable for if you violate it or if you make a false shvua? Talmud lomar al nefesh kisi shava levatebis vasayim. So this is an inclusive phrase. A person who makes a shvua verbally, ainli ela lahaba. So this is taken to mean only for the future, for something that I'm going to do something in the future. Or l'shav arminayin. What about if you take a shvua over something that I did or didn't do in the past? Talmud lomar l'chol asher yivatei hadam b'shvua. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says that's what the Torah comes to tell you. L'chol asher yivatei, anything that a person pronounces in the shvua. So that includes past or future. Um, Rabbi Shmuel says lahara lehetiv lahaba. Um, so Rabbi Shmuel says, well, something that will be detrimental to you or will be beneficial to you. So that indicates it's a future tense. All right, so it's only, according to Rabbi Shmuel, things that are in the future that you can make a shvuah about. Rabbi Akiva, so Rabbi Akiva says, if that's so, then that only if you're gonna use the words hara v'hatava to indicate that it's future tense, well, what about the meaning of the words themselves? That has to be something either detrimental or beneficial. Where do you get things that are neutral? Amarlo, meribe akasav, because the Torah includes, an extra phrase. Amarlo, meribe akasav, lakach, meribe akasav, lakach. Okay, if you're going to take extra phrases into account, so the extra phrase should also include both past and future. Shopper commonly Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shmuel. So Gemara comments. It's a good objection Rabbi Akiva has. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shmuel, Sheshimesh, Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana. This is Rabbi Shmuel who served under or who served Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana. Shayadarish is called Torah Kula Biklalu Prat. So we have two different kinds of rules. One is called ribui umiut, which is more when the Torah says something that's inclusive and exclusive, but this is in a more expansive way, right? That we include more things, or there's also klal uprat, which is less expansive. So same idea, but how much it includes or doesn't include is what's at stake here. So Iyunami Darish B'Klalu Prat. So Rabbi Shmuel, who served Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana, who used the Klalu Prat rules, which is less inclusive. He also Iyunami Darish Klalu Prat. And Rabbi Akiva, Sheshimesh is Nachum Ish Gamzu, Rabbi Akiva, who served Nachum Ish Gamzu, Shaydarish is called Torah Kula B'Riba Umi'et, who used the more expansive rule. Iyunami Darish Riba Umi'et. So Rabbi Akiva followed his teacher. My Rabbi Akiva Darish Ribuye Umiute. Where do we see this? That Rabbi Akiva uses the designation of or the use of Ribuye Umiut, that rule. Titania, we have a brisa. Well, nefesh kisi shava, a person who makes a shvuah. Riba, that's an inclusive phrase. A general shvuah, lahara lehetiv miet, and that it should be beneficial or detrimental. That's a mute. That's a restrictive phrase. And then it says anything that the person pronounces. Chaser v'riba, ribo miet v'riba riba akol. So Rabbi Akiva here in this brisa actually says that you use riboy umiut, and the riboy is everything, any kind of shvua. My riba, riba kol mile. What does it include? Everything. My miet, but what's the miut? I mean, there is something that's excluded because of the middle phrase, which is Lahar lahetiv dvar mitzvah. What that's excluding is if you make a shvuah about something that's a mitzvah, either to do an existing mitzvah or to violate an existing mitzvah. That shvuah is not effective, as we've seen before. That you can't make a shvuah on something that you're already commanded on by the Torah. Rabbi Shmuel Darish Kaluprat. Where do we have the example, or the where do we see that Rabbi Shmuel uses the klal uprat? On nefesh kisi shalvati was fasayim. The same pasuk. A person who makes a shvuah, klal. That's a general rule. Lahar lahetiv, for good or bad prat. That's a minimization. Again, the same pasuk. Anything that a person pronounces. So chazor ufachlal. Now this is a klal. So it's klal uprat klal. Yatadon ela ke'ein haprat. So here the rule is not that you maximize what you're including and minimize what you're excluding. Rather, it's things that are what's in the general rule, things that are like the detail. Ma prad mefarish laba, afkan laba. Just as the prat, the detail in the middle, is specifically phrased in the future tense. Afakol laba. So any shvua that we're talking about here is for the future. So that's Rabbi Shmuel's view of it. Ahane klala. And this klal, the generalization includes, since the only thing we're excluding by the prat is past tense, so we're including things that are, whether they are positive, negative, or neutral. Ahane prata, and what is the prat? What is the restriction of the middle phrase? That excludes things that are in the past, even if they're, no matter if they're beneficial, not beneficial, whatever. It's the past that we're using that we're viewing as excluded by the middle phrase, by the use of the future tense. So Gemara says, Eipuchana. So wait a minute. So Rabbi Shmuel is arbitrarily including whether it's beneficial, not beneficial, or neutral, and he's excluding things in the past. Eipuchana. Why don't you do it the other way around? Why is it you're being arbitrary about how to apply the rule? Rabbi Yitzchak Dumya de Lahar Lahetiv. The general rule has to be like lahar lahetiv misha isura mishum bal yachel devaro. Someone who's the reason that you can't violate your oath is lo yachel devaro. Like don't make your word chol. Like don't profane your own words. If you're talking about the past, you're not talking about like not keeping your word. You're talking about like lying about being dishonest about what happened in the past, taking shuv about something that happened or didn't happen already. So that wouldn't come under the phrase of lo yachel devaro. Whereas lo yachel devaro would apply to the idea of something that's good, bad, or indifferent for you, and that's why he includes that and excludes the past. Okay, Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Rabbi Amar. Rabbi Yitzchak has another explanation for Rabbi Shmuel. Amar Kra, Nefesh Kisi Shavel Levatei B'Sfasayim. Torah says a person who makes a shvuah that he expresses with his lips. Misha shvua kodemes lebitui. The shvua, the oath, comes before the action in the what he said, right? So like I swear to blah blah blah, right? Or I swear that da da da. Veloshi habitui kodemes lo shvua. But if the expression comes before the shvua, yatzazeh achalti v'lo achalti. So someone who makes a shvua that I did something or didn't do something in the past, shamase kodem l'shvua. That action took place before the shvua that you're making now, and so that doesn't really fit with Kisi Shava Levatebis Vasayim. Rabbi stop. So we're juxtaposing two words, or the Torah juxtaposes two words from two different phrases. Anything that a person pronounces as an oath. So this excludes something that he accidentally swore falsely. So in other words, like let's say you're swearing about something that occurred already, and you sincerely believe that you're being correct when really you're not correct. That's an honest, and you're not liable. V'nelam, something's concealed from him. Prat lamezi. That excludes someone who deliberately violates his shvuah. Then he's not chayav a karban, but he has. I don't remember if there's another punishment for that, or if it's. But there's no karban. Karban is only for something that's b'shogeg. Mimanu. It comes from him. The Torah says, "Shenis al mimanu shvuah." That you forgot. Let's say you made a shvuah not to do something, and then you forgot about the shvuah and you did the thing. That is liable for a karban. That's a nis alma mimanu shvuah. You forgot about the shvuah. Yachol shenis alma mimanu chayfetz. But maybe I would also say that if you forgot. Like if the item that you swore about was concealed from you, the Gemara will explain what this means in a minute. So that's not included in the karban. I would think maybe that's not included. So Talmud Lamar, no, it is included. Torah says b'shua v'nelam, the juxtaposition of the words in a shvua and it's concealed from him. Al helim shvuah chayav ve'enu chayav al helim chayfetz. Yeah, you are chayav for forgetting the shvuah. That that's for that you're liable. But if you forget the thing itself, then as I said, we'll explain that in a minute. Then that is not subject to liability for the karban. Amar, we said hadam b'shvuah prat la'anus. What is an anus? Hechidame. What's what's an example? Rav Kana Bravasi. Kihavu Kaime, Mikame, the Rav. Rav Kana Ravasi were sitting before Rav. Maramar Shvuasa Dahachi Amarav. One of the students says, I swear that Rav said something. That said so and so. Maramar Shvuasa Dahachi Amarav. And the other one said, no, he said something differently. They each had a Shvuah, so one of them must have been wrong. Kihavu coming to Rav. When they came to Rav, Amar Kachad Midav, he said, yeah, I said like you. Right? Amar Leidach, the other one says, Va'ana B'shikrak Ishtabai. Does that mean I made a false shvuah? Amalei libach ansach. No, you sincerely believe that's what I said, so that's called an onus. You're not liable for shvuah. V'nela mimanu. Now he said something that's concealed from you. Shenisali mimanu shvuah, meaning you forgot the shvuah, the oath itself. Yachol shenisali mimanu chayfetz. But what about if you forget the thing itself? Talmud Lomar b'shvuah v'nelam. Al halim shvuah chayav ein al chayav al halim chayfetz. Machaku alei b'marava. So they laughed about this. B'shlama shvuah mishkachas la below chayfetz. I can understand you forget the shvuah. Kigod yamar shvuah shelo chal paschitin. For example, I said I swear I'm not going to eat bread made with wheat. Uketzaver sha'ochal ka'amar. And he thought, oh, later, the next day, he said, what was that shvuah I made yesterday? Oh, yes, that I will eat wheat bread, right? So he made this mistake. The shvuah say inshe. He forgot the shvuah itself. So then you're liable, right? Because really you swore not to eat wheat bread. You thought you swore to eat wheat bread, so you ate it. So that you made a mistake. And that is the false, that's the shvuah that you're chayav for. The Chefza Dacher, but he remembered, the thing was about wheat bread. What kind of example are you going to give that he forgot the thing itself? For example, if you made a shvuah not to eat wheat bread, and then the next day you thought, what was that shvuah I made yesterday? Not to eat barley bread, mistakenly. He remembered there was a shvuah, but he forgot about what? Wheat bread or barley bread. Since he forgot the thing itself, Hainu Helim Shvua, that's considered Helim Shvua. So, why would you say that's different? Why is the Chefsa different than the Shvua? It's the same thing. They're both forgetting the Shvua about the Shvua itself, And so we're basically rejecting the brisa. The brisa we're saying must be incorrect, um, and there's no difference between forgetting the shvua itself, what the shvua was about, or what the thing was in the shvua. Maski for Rav Yosef, so Rav Yosef asks, Alma chayfetz bo shvua lo mashkachos la. What, you think I can't find you a case of forgetting the thing and not the shvua itself? Here's the case. I made a shvua. Someone made a shvua that I won't eat wheat bread. And then he goes over to the bakery shelf where they keep the barley bread, and he picks up a loaf. Also, but guess what? He picked up a wheat bread instead. But he thought it was a barley bread, and he ate it. So he remembered what the shvua was right. What the shvua was, right? He remembered he's not supposed to eat wheat bread. He thought he's eating barley bread. He thought he's eating barley bread, and but really he's eating wheat bread. That seems to be like a case of forgetting of having the chafza concealed from you, right? Amalei Abaye. So Abaye says klum chayv carbon. You carbon ella. Are you in that case? Are you really just having him bring a carbon for the shua? Amai the toughest biyade on what he actually ate. Helim shuahu. So that is a case of uh, like that would also be a case of helim shvua, because you're he didn't basically he didn't realize that his shvua forbade him from eating this particular bread, right? Um, so uh, so he's trying to make this distinction that there's still a distinction between Helem Shua and Helem Chayfis. One second. Um, So it's still a Halim Shvua. And Lishnachmin, our different version is Amalei Bel Rav Yosef, Sof carbon the Kamaisei the high pass, Mias Halim Shvua. In the end, he's bringing a carbon anyway. Call it a Halim Shvua. Um, Rav Yosef. Well, so what would Rav Yosef say? Who says that there is a difference between the shvua and the chayfetz? Amalach, he would say, Kevan dechiyad lechitin who parish minei. Since he knew that. Since if he knew that this was wheat bread, he would have not eaten it because of his shvua. So he's good with the shvua. He's trying to keep the shvua. Elam chayfetzu, but he's making a mistake about the item itself. So he's making a mistake. Rav Yosef says there is that distinction. Okay, now you can see each side. Bamine Rav and Rav Nachman. Helim zev Helim zev biyado mahu. What about if he forgets the shvua, and also the thing itself is unclear? He forgets, or he's got a mistake about whether that's the thing that's forbidden. So is that like kind of further removed from liability, and he's not chayv a carbon or not? Amalei harei helim shvua biyado. He's got a Halim Shvua, so what are you asking about? Adrabah. So Rabba says, on the other hand, on the contrary, Hare Halim Chayfetz V'yado, Upater. He's got a Halim Chayfetz. He's making a mistake about the item itself. So regardless of whether he remembers the Shvua, he's still making a mistake about the thing itself. So maybe he should be Pater. Ravashi Chazinan. Let's see what's going on here. Excuse me. If he doesn't eat it because he remembers the shvua, then that would be a helim shvua, right? But if it's because he's making a mistake about what kind of bread this is, um, so so if he would be told that, oh wait, this is really wheat bread, and he remembers his shvua, then he would have not eaten it. So he's potter. Only Rashi. Klum parish mishvua el mishum chayfetz. Well, what's the difference? You're trying to make a distinction between remembering the shvua or finding out what the bread actually is. There's no distinction. Klum parish chayfetz el mishum shvua, like it's all connected to the shvua. El loshna. There's no difference whether it's how you view this double forgetting, it's still considered potter. Bami Rav and Rav Nachman. What is the case of we mentioned before, something shua about the future or the past? What is this shua about the past? Idiada, if he knew that it was false when he made the shua, that what he's swearing happened in the past didn't happen. Mezitu, that's purposeful. There's no karma. Idlo yada, onusu. But if you didn't know, like if you really forgot, then that's an onus. So what's a shogeg? Amalei. Nachman answers him, "Ba'omer yodea ani sheshvua zu asur." He says, "I know that I shouldn't be making the shvua. Aval eni yodea im chayavin lekarban olav." I don't know if you have to bring a carbon or not. Um, so it's a bit of a weird case. He's like deliberately trying he's deliberately violating. He's deliberately lying about something that occurred in the past, but but he's saying, but I don't know if this is considered something that you're chayiv a carbon for. So therefore, should I be chayiv the carbon or not? Come on, and who would this be according to Kamun Buzz? The Amar Shingas Karban Shmashgaga. If you make if the shogeg, if the accidental part of your or the unintentional part of your action is that you don't know if there's a carbon, like you know that this is wrong, but you don't know if you're going to be chayav a carbon or not, that is considered shogeg. So that would accord with this case. The Gemara says, "Afilu te rabbanan." No, even if you don't hold like munbaz, I call him pili rabbanan like the munbaz ella b'chol tarakula. That argument only applies elsewhere. Nothing to do with shvuah. The love chidushu because there's no like obviously you're going to be chayiv a carbon. What does it mean? That like every type of violation for which you're chayiv kares, if you do it purposely, you're chayiv a carbon. If you do it accidentally, but so then the rabbis the rabbanon would argue with munbas. Aval hacha the chiddush here the bringing of a carbon is something new. Because this is a lotase, right? And you don't find any other lotase for which you bring a carbon. Because we learn this from Avodah Zarah. But here you do bring a carbon. Even though the mazid you don't get kares for. So afil rabbanon modu. So even the rabbis would say that okay, this is like unclear if you should get a carbon. So the person who makes the shvua and his error is he doesn't know that you're going to have to bring a carbon for it. So even the rabbanon would say that that is considered a shogeg for shvua. Nishmal kikar. If you make a shvua not to eat a loaf of bread, umistake and allow, and then it's the last you're starving, and it's the last loaf of bread that there is, and you're going to die if you don't eat it. Mo. So if you forgot the shvua, are you chayav a carbon and you ate it? Are you chayav a carbon? So Rava says mistaken. Lishulei amar. Well, what do you mean? If your life is in danger, there's like then obviously you're going to be allowed to eat it. So shouldn't be any carbon here. Like your remaining alive overrides the shvua, so there would not be any carbon here. Ela mitzvah means not that you're going to die, but you'll be in distress. V'chala b'shigas shvua, and then so you're really hungry. You come home, you've been working all day, you didn't have anything to eat, you're really hungry, and you forget your shvua. So does that mitigate the shogegness? Like do we make it more like an onus because you're so distressed? So Amalei, so the answer is, guess what? We have a price about this. Shav mi so if if had you known that what your frame of mind would be, you wouldn't have made the shvu in the first place. Maybe carbon al shigaso. You do bring a carbon. Lo shav mi so But if you wouldn't have changed your mind, and maybe carbon al also, then you don't bring a carbon if you do it mistakenly. Shmuel Gomer Belibo, Shmuel said this is a different tangent. If you if you if you make up your mind, I'm not going to eat that bread, but you don't say anything. It's only a shvuah if you pronounce it verbally. As the Torah says, you make a shvuah with your lips. Face, so they ask, bisfasayim v'lo b'lev. Um, uh, so, one second. Another brisa says bisfasayim v'lo b'lev. It says, Torah says, with your lips and not with your heart, not without pronouncing it. Gomer b'libo minayin. But what about if you decide something internally without saying it? How do I know that counts as a shvuah? Talmud lomar l'chal anything that a person expresses as a shvuah. So this brisa is including things that you think about making a shvuah, but don't say it verbally. So Gemara says, "Hagufa kasha." Wait, the Bryce itself makes no sense. Amarta bisfasayim v'lo b'leiv. Like you're trying to prove it. You're saying that the second Bryce is saying it has to be bisfasayim. The Torah says that, and then v'hadar amart gamar b'libo minayin, and then you say, like. First, you're saying it has to be verbal, and then you're saying, "How do I know?" Even if it's not verbal, so the Bryce says seems a bit muddled. Rav Sheshes halokasha. That's not a problem. Hakikama. This is what it means to say. Bisfasayim, the Torah says, with your lips, and not if you just think about it. And if you decided to about a shvuah, but you didn't say it. Gomer belibo stamina. And what about if a case where you just thought about it? In other words, the first case of the brisa is that you decided to say something, but you didn't say it. The second case is you just decided something. You weren't planning to say it. You're just thinking, I'm not going to eat, wheat bread. Talmud Lomar, how do I know that is a shvuah? So l'chol asher yivatei, that's from the second phrase in the Torah. El Shmuel kasha. But anyway, all right. So the brisa is against Shmuel because Shmuel says it has to be verbal, and this brisa says verbal or non-verbal. Amar Sheshes. Taritz famous hachi. This is how you can teach the brisa. Bisfasayim, the brisa means if you say it verbally, and not if you and like if you thought about, you think I'm going to make a shvuah not to eat wheat bread, and then what you actually said was I'm not going to eat barley bread. That is then it's only what you actually say. Right? It's the barley bread. No, so that doesn't count at all, right? That doesn't, because you misspoke, right? That wasn't your intention. But if you decided I'm going to make a shvuah, I'm going to say a shvuah not to eat wheat bread, and then what I actually said was I'm not going to eat bread. Period. Minayin. How do we know that oath is good? That shvuah is good. Talmud lomar l'chal she'yivatei adam. That's what we get from the second pasuk. Okay. Meisvei, another question on Shmuel. Torah says elsewhere, do what you say, right? Whatever you say, you should keep. So that only applies to things that you say, something they actually say. And what about something you decide internally to do? Do you have to keep that? Talmud Lomar, Kol Nediv Lev. This is a pasuk at the Mishkan, right, the donations to the Mishkan. Anyone who had a donating heart, right, brought donations for the Mishkan. So that sounds like even if your inclination, like it's something internal, right? And even if you just decided without saying so, I'm going to donate my gold bracelets to the Mishkan, you have to do it. So doesn't that indicate, wouldn't we say the same thing about all Nadarim, all Shavuos? Tani Hasam, Gemara says no. Tsiv kol Nediv. The Mishkan, it says specifically anything that you were internally decided to donate, you have to donate. But we won't apply that to a regular shvuah. Why not? Why don't we apply that rule from the Mishkan to ordinary case of shvuah? Mishum to have a truma of a kachim because it's because because this donation and kachim are two things about which it says nediv lev. They're both so it's actually a pasuk in Divrei Yamim, where it refers to Kol Nediv Lev. They brought sacrifices. They brought the olos. So since we have two cases that have to do with kachim, with this donation to the Mishkan, and with sacrifices, they call sheiks ein malamdim. If there are two psukim that teach the same thing about themselves, then we don't apply that to the general case. In other words, we don't apply it to Shevuot. So Anichol Mandi Amar Malamdin. So yeah, but that's not a universal opinion. There are those who hold Mandi Amar Malamdin. If you hold that if this passage, if this phrase appears in two cases, we do apply it to the general case. Michael Maimar Havachuli Mekachim, because both of those cases are kachim. Right? They both had to do with the Mishkan and with sacrifices. And the Shevuot, we're talking about non-kachim. And you don't derive rules from kachim to chulin. We assume that kachim have their own logic, their own rules, and you don't necessarily apply that to chulin. And so the idea that that something that you decide internally without saying you're obligated to do for kachim doesn't apply to it doesn't apply to a shvuah that which you actually have to say what you mean, and that is where we will start for today. I'll be away for 2 weeks in Israel, so I'll leave you in David and Ellie's good hands. Have a good day, everybody.